Hi, this is Patty D. Priest, and welcome back to Educate Academy, brought to you by the Kentucky Academy of Technology Education. Today we're going to do a little more formatting on our data. We're using the same Google Sheet that we used before. To select a cell, you just click on it. You can also use your arrow key to move to it. You can also use your tab to move forward and Shift tab to move backwards. If you want to select a series of cells called a range, you can click and drag. You can even go to the right and click multiple rows and multiple columns. This again is called a range. We're going to look at formatting some of this text. This text right here is a number to us, but it could be formatted as just text, okay? To manipulate that and actually perform math calculations on it, it needs to be a number. So if I select this range or this part of the column and I go to Format and I go to Number, notice it is checked as plain text. If I want to change it to a number, I click here. Now it doesn't look like it changed, but in the background the sheet knows that it is a number, and if I want to add multiple numbers together, I can perform that function on those numbers. Okay. The other thing I might want to do, you'll notice these other numbers here are formatted as currency or as dollars, and so I can select these as well. I can go back to Format, or you'll notice right here I can take the shortcut and just format it as currency. On my shortcut here I've got being able to format it as currency, do a percentage, decrease my decimal point, increase my decimal point, and then if I click here on the little down dropped arrow, I can format it in all of these. And so here I have text. There really is no format for text. I mean, I can bold it and I can do all the text kind of things to it. So I can go into Format and do that as well. But I also have my shortcut menu here where I can do the same things. So if I wanted to make it bold, which it already is, I would click on that. If I wanted to change the color of my font, I would come here and do that as well. Okay. You'll notice here across the top, I've got my different background colors and font colors, but you'll notice this one's kind of off. So if I wanted to change it to match this cell, I can just select the text. I might have to double click on it to select it, and I can go to the text color and I can say I want to reset it, or I can actually just choose white, either one, and now it matches this cell. Another thing that I can do is I can add borders, and so I may want to, if I select all of this, I may want to add a border. I have a border shortcut right here. When I click, notice I can add borders around every cell. I can add it just through the middle. I can add it just on the outside, and I have all these other options. So I'm going to click a border around the edges. I can change the color of that border, or I can choose no borders to get rid of it. And I can change the type of border that I have. So let's make it thick so we can see it. And when we click off it, we can see that it goes all the way around those cells. I did not choose to have it go individually in each. I can now come back and do that. Go back to my border and choose the inside ones. I may not want it quite that dark or bold, thick of a line, and so I can change that as well. I can come down here and do the same thing, and I can format that as well. And sometimes that makes it easier for you to read the data. All right, you'll notice in my data down here that I can read this column and this column very well, but when I get over to column G, it's kind of squished in there. And so I can do a couple things. If I come between these two columns and I double click, it's automatically going to format that column to fit all of the data in there, and so it's widening it. The other way to do it is just to click and drag, and it will make that wider. And so, or I could make it smaller, either way. So that's a formatting trick that you can do. I can also wrap text. Now let's say that in this column, we'll squish it up a little bit so that things are kind of squishy. There we go. I can select this column and I can come over here, and right now it's not wrapping the text, but I can tell it to wrap, and it's going to push some of those into this second kind of line to make it fit and be readable. We can undo that if we don't like it by coming up here. I can double click then, and it's going to make it bigger. It's a little bit too big. We'll come back to that. Sometimes you have to adjust. All right, if I want to click and choose the entire sheet, I can come up here in this box and click, and it has selected everything in this sheet. I can click to unselect it. To select an entire column, I click on the letter, and to select an entire row, I click on the number. I can insert a new row. Let's say I wanted to put something above row 1. I can click and select it. I can go to insert, and I can say I want a row above. Now if I had done the same thing and I'd clicked a column and gone to insert, it knows I'm going to insert a column, and so it changes that choice to columns. I don't want to do that, but I could do it. We go back to insert a row above, and it gives me a blank row above. It mimics the formatting from the row that it copied it from. So notice it has colors in it. If I don't want that fill, I can select it. This is the fill shortcut. I can click here, tell it to reset, and it goes back to not having anything in it. All right, I can manually, let's say I select all of my rows here and I want all of them to be the same width and I want to do them together, all I have to do is choose one, get the arrow between one of them, and drag down, and all of them are going to become wider rows. It's not going to affect anything I did not select, but it did affect the ones that I chose. Same happens for columns, and so if I was to select these and get that arrow, I can click and drag on it and widen or make the rows narrow. Okay, to make our sheet more readable, we are going to do alternating colors for each row. I can select all the rows that I want to do alternating colors on. I could also select from here if I have a large spreadsheet and do everything in alternating colors. We're not going to do that right now because we really have a very manageable sized sheet that we're working with. I've selected it. I'm going to go to Format, Alternating Colors. I don't want what they're considering the header, which is here. Now if I was up in here it might be different, but I'm going to undo the header here. And then I have some default colors that I can do. I can also choose custom colors from here and go into custom and pick pretty much any color I want. I can even add the color name here, if you will. We're just going to quickly pick this green and white background. And once I'm done, I'm going to click the Done button, click off of it, and you'll notice that every other color is white and green. Other things that you can do is you can change the font that you're using. If I wanted to change the font on all of these, I could come up here, say instead of Antic Slab, I want Alerta. And so it's going to change it to that. That may change the size of it because Alerta 14 is different than Antic Slab was at 14. And so you may have to adjust your rows and columns for that. Notice we're kind of running into the sides here. So I can double click. Same thing here. Double click. And it's going to adjust those for me. I can also change the size of the font. I can change the color of the font. I can make it bold, italicized, and all those things. You may have noticed that up here, this cell covers both A and B, whereas the cells below, I still have A3 and B3. What's happened here is I have merged those cells so that I could put an overall name above that. And so what I've done is I've selected the two cells. I've come here to my merge cells, and it's going to merge them together. Notice I have a drop down so I can merge all. I can merge horizontally, and then I can also unmerge and make it back to the way it was in case that didn't work out. I can print my spreadsheet. It's a little bit different in that here it's going to show me what it's going to look like. If I have a very large spreadsheet, it's going to ask me to do things like fit it to the width, fit it to the height, give it a normal percentage, fit it to the page. So you've got some other formatting options there. You can also change your margins. So you've got normal, narrow, wide, or you can add custom numbers. A lot of times you're going to get spreadsheets that are going to go onto multiple pages. So you can set your page breaks where you want them to be. You also have formatting where you can show the grid lines or not. You can show any notes that have been added to the sheet. You can change your page order. Do you want it to go over, as in across, from left to right, and then go down to the next set of sheets and go left to right, and so on if it's very large? You also have your alignment and your headers and footers where you can add page numbers, sheet names, all those different kinds of things. It talks about frozen rows. That's a great thing to repeat in some of your printouts. We haven't talked about that yet, so when we get to that, you can remind me that we need to talk about that. Any of your shortcut keys, your copy, paste, those kinds of things are the same as you'd use in basically any other program. The Control-C will do a copy, or Command-C if you're on a Mac. Control-V will paste it. Control-X or Command-X will do a cut. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching.